Well, listeners, we know that you love to discover brand new music on this show, and there's a new album out that I thought you guys might want to check out. It's called Many Things Afflict Us, Few Things Console Us. It's the fifth album from Birmingham-based industrial doom metal band Coast, and we thought we would actually get one of the members on the phone today to chat a little bit about this album. So welcome to the program, Damien.
Hi. Really glad to be here.
Now, mate, this is an absolutely amazing album. I've got to ask, take us right back to when you guys first started working on this album and tell us what kind of things were being talked about back then.
Yeah, okay. Well, basically, this is, I would say, about 2020, 21. And we talk a lot in terms of influences and things we love generally, okay? And the band always has a certain sort of sound, a certain sort of guitar sort of approach, a certain sort of atmosphere about it. This generally comes from Andy. He basically has a certain sort of atmosphere, certain sort of parameters, and he'd come up with some new tracks, and we were basically looking to evolve sort of themes of when you are under a sort of I don't want to say under a spell, but you feel sort of daily pressures.
Yeah.
And you feel a certain weight coming in on a daily basis, and this sort of oppression is something that we sort of looked into and expanded upon. But we were also in these conversations of these sort of tracks and evolving them. As I say, about 2021 or so, about this stage, we were talking a lot about a lot of post-punk influences that we like. And as a result, we fairly quickly put together some tracks which sort of gave a nod to a certain period of the post-punk era. And bands like DAF, bands like Warsaw, pre-Joy Division, this sort of thing. And so we went a bit left field for us, if you know what I mean. So, as I say, we have the signature sound, but then we decided to divert a little bit. So you had tracks like Transfixed. And we really, really thought, wow, how would this sound as a departure to the normal sort of very slow sound live, to have these sort of tracks as well, these sort of post-punk sounds. And as a matter of course, we always work with other people in terms of spoken word contributions, and they're never just tagged on. We basically evolve these with people that we know. It could be, in the past, it could be like Eugene from Oxbow. And in this time, we spoke to Axebreaker,
yep,
who we played with in the States, and evolved a track there. I don't want to get ahead of myself in case you want to talk about something else. But it's over the course of time, we just decided to go into slightly different territories.
Well, did that test you?
Sorry.
I was going to say, did that test you as well? Like you said, you did go into some very new things this time around. Did you feel that challenged you or tested you in any way?
Well, we just basically tried to do it so it always feels like you're under the same roof when we put it together as the sort of Coast ethos, I suppose. And an analogy would be, if you go to a club or a venue or a festival, you have like the main stage, the main room, and I suppose that would be the sort of signature of the Coast world. But we wanted to have diversions. So in the sort of in this space that you might visit, you might go into a smaller room where you see another sort of performance, leading off from the main sort of room, and somebody is in there performing, and you had no awareness that they were playing before you turned up. And it's that experience I personally always really love anyway, in terms of going out. So that was the main thing, to keep it all under the sort of same roof, it's like a compound. You walk in and there's a main area, but there's sort of corridors leading off, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I also love the thought, with this too, you don't know what time of day it is, and you don't know what you're going to encounter when you go in there. So that was the case definitely with Overrun, which had Manuel, and as I say, the Axebreaker track, in terms of these sort of diversions. But in terms of testing, we do test ourselves sort of regularly, in terms of trying to stretch it a little bit, in terms of the live performance. The first gig we ever did, we had a couple of laptops on stage. All they were doing was showing visuals. We used them as basically monitors, okay? But in a metal context where you've got like loads of amps and people playing extreme sort of down-tuned metal, a few people were saying, what's the score with laptops on stage? That sort of raised a few eyebrows, in a cool way though.
Yeah.
We've used a reel-to-reel recorder on stage as well. Cranky old reel-to-reel, which was prone to breaking down. But it sounded great because the playheads were getting a bit worn. And we love that. You see clips of bands from the late 70s and early 80s where they'd have a couple of, Human League, these sort of people, the early Human League. You'd see them with reel-to-reels. I think Everything But the Girl, not Everything But the Girl, Cocteau Twins as well would use reel-to-reel on stage. And Andy will also play a cornet, like a trumpet type instrument as well, right at the top of the set. We usually have some fairly extreme, like, power electronics right at the start, like a big wall of sound. And over that, he'll use the cornet or the trumpet through a delay. And it's like this big heralding sound. You also hear it in acts like Throbbing Gristle, this sort of sound, this sort of spooky sound. It's a bit of a dub thing as well, if you know this sort of style. But again, these sort of things aren't common in metal, so we do periodically enjoy testing ourselves, I suppose, generally.
When you do go out to find a new sound like that and experiment with things like, as you were saying, the reel-to-reel on stage and things like that, is it a lot of trial and error to get the sound that you want, or do you just hear something and go, nah, that will work, let's do that?
Yeah, exactly. It is a lot of it's empirical, and there's a lot of late night sessions. That's when the best stuff comes out. Work on stuff really late, and just push it a little bit with that reel-to-reel, actually, because it was getting on a little bit too. As I say, the recording heads weren't too good, and that just added to it. To try and push it in terms of what it could do. And I think some of those atmospheres turn up on some other recordings. I can come to that later. But when you're working with, I suppose, unexpected things, unexpected sound sources, record things off an old dictaphone or something like that, every now and again you'll get something in the background. And that's what we look for, those little nuances that pop up every now and again. So when you hear a lot of the ambience in Coast between tracks, it's usually from happenstance. It's usually from chance that we get these sort of things. We always try to capture them. And there's also a lot of releases which are releases that we put out between albums. Like from the start, we've always done like one-off cassettes, CDRs, USB type things that we just put on the desk at the shows.
Yeah.
We just love different formats, and it'll happen again. There's something in the line for the next tour which is similar.
Talking of the different formats, if people do go out and buy Many Things Affect Us, Few Things Console Us on CD. It's very different to what's on vinyl as well. Could you talk us through the difference between the CD and the vinyl?
Yeah, we I think wrote with something that would resemble a vinyl release, and that was maybe the core. So this maybe comes back to the first question in terms of how we were shaping it. But as a matter of course, we did continue to write and come up with some other tracks as well. There's also right at the end of the CD, there's a quite a long sort of drifty sort of piece, and this comes from a discussion we were talking once, maybe in a van drive, a late night van drive. We were talking about early Pink Floyd. We're talking not early Pink Floyd with Syd Barrett, but like basically the sort of era of metal and Live at Pompeii, which we both love. And when you're talking, you suddenly start to wonder what would a track from a similar era sound like. So we came up with something which sort of had a nod to that era. It's a very drifty sort of track. But when we came to it, we had to choose. We realised a lot of these tracks, some tracks, they basically wouldn't fit on the vinyl. We also like the thought, as I said, when you go to a venue, there might be different rooms, different corridors leading off elsewhere. You find different acts and different experiences. Same thing with the vinyl is one experience with the CD release, digital as well. It's a different experience as well. So, yeah, they're just different experiences.
Definitely. So, Damien, I guess the big question is, if people want to buy a copy of either the vinyl or the CD, where can they go to buy a copy?
I think this would be direct to Cold Spring. Just basically check out the Bandcamp as a starting point for me. That would be the one for Cold Spring. And you can preview the tracks, obviously, there too.
Awesome. Well, mate, to finish off, what would you like to say to people out there who might be about to sit down and take a listen to your music for the very first time? What would you like to say to them?
I think, there's a Curse track called Reading Between the Lines, and it's a similar sort of thing. Just have a listen to the nuances in between. There's a track called A Portrait. Anyway, I won't give it away, but like, there's one track where you have the an intro which sounds straight out of a creepy 1986 sort of VHS movie. So I suppose what I'd say is just A Portrait Peg, sorry, that's the track. It's early here, sorry mate.
That's all right.
But basically, listen to the nuances between. But main thing is really crank it up, because I think the only thing with digital, I love digital. I listen to all formats every day, as much as I can from dusk till dawn, and I love it. But it's really an analog album. It's really, if you imagine it through some really hefty speakers at a really good volume, that's really the score. With this album, but also with all the releases, really crank them up, because that's the thing live as well. That's what we aim for, which we've achieved a few occasions in terms of the live sound and getting the live sound, the live visuals matched. So it's that sort of experience.